Hello, everyone, and welcome to WIDA English Language Development, or ELD, Standards Training. I'm Kim Mesa. I'm ESL Director for Vance County Schools, and I'm glad you're here with me today to learn about the WIDA English Language Development Standards. WIDA stands for World Class Instructional Design and Assessment. It's out of the University of Wisconsin, and North Carolina is a participating WIDA state. In this slide, we see the WIDA standards framework. It involves the guiding principles of language development, the features of academic language, the performance definitions, the can-do descriptors, and the standards matrices. And we're going to explore each of these in this session today. WIDA can-do descriptors are awesome. They're available from WIDA, from the WIDA store, and also from WIDA.us online in both English and Spanish. The ESL teacher at each school can provide you with your students' specific can-dos. These can-dos provide teachers with information on the language students are able to understand and produce in the classroom at each proficiency level. Our 4 language domains are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. We have 5 English language development standards, which are featured here in this slide. English Language Development Standard 1 is that English language learners will communicate for social and instructional purposes within the school setting. English Language Development Standard 2 is that English language learners communicate information, ideas, and concepts necessary for academic success in the content area of language arts. English Language Development Standard 3 is that English language learners will communicate information, ideas, and concepts necessary for academic success in the content area of mathematics. English Language Development Standard 4 is that English language learners communicate information, ideas, and concepts necessary for academic success in the content area of science. And finally, English Language Development Standard 5 is that English language learners will communicate information, ideas, and concepts necessary for academic success in the content area of social studies. WIDA has organized the English language development standards around individual grade levels from kindergarten through 8th grade and for grade level clusters 9 through 10 and 11 through 12. WIDA recognizes that instruction for English learners must be age and developmentally appropriate. In this slide, we have the features of academic language that operate within sociocultural context for language use. It's broken down at the dimension, performance criteria, and features levels. The first level, discourse, sentence, and word phrase, break it down even further. At the word phrase level, we're looking for specific vocabulary usage. In the sentence level, we're looking for language forms and conventions. And at the discourse level, we're looking at linguistic complexity. This slide shows the WIDA performance definitions for listening and reading in grades K through 12. The English language proficiency levels are included here on the left from level 1 entering all the way to level 5 bridging. And the features of academic language are across the top. In level 1 entering, we can see that we're expecting from the student at that level to be able to give us single statements or questions. Also an idea within words, phrases, or chunks of language. But when we move up to level 2 emerging, the student should be able to have multiple related simple sentences and an idea with details. At level 3, the discourse should be a series of extended sentences, and there should be related ideas specific to the particular content areas. Level 4 expanding, we should see connected discourse with a variety of sentences, expanded related ideas characteristic of particular content areas. And finally, level 5, we should see rich descriptive discourse with complex sentences. Cohesive and organized related ideas should run across all content areas. This is the same slide, but focusing on speaking and writing. again with the proficiency levels and the features of academic language. And at each level, what we should see the student doing at that level of language proficiency. Model performance indicators. WIDA MPIs are composed of three main elements: the language function, the content stem, and the supports. The language function describes how English learners process or produce language. The content stem is the state content standard. The third part of the MPI is the support. It illustrates the importance of scaffolded language development for English learners at least through level 4. In this model figure J, you see a model performance indicator within a strand. WIDA calls these strands, and one box here is one MPI. So in this one, we're going to look at reading. We have our proficiency levels going across the top, but we're going to look at level 4 expanding. We have compare narrative points of view in extended text using graphic organizers with a partner. If we have the three parts of the MPI right here. We have the language we're going to use is compare, and the content, which is related to the standard, is the narrative points of view in extended text. And the support that the student is given is using graphic organizers with a partner. When we move up to level 5, we're going to see that that support is no longer there, because WIDA recognizes that students from level 1 to level 4 need that support. But at level 5, that support is no longer needed. So at level 5, we still have an MPI. We're just not needing that extra support. So at level 5, bridging, the student will compare and contrast narrative points of view in extended text. They do not need any extra supports. But back here at level 1, identify language that indicates narrative points of view, for example, I versus he or she, from illustrated text using word phrase banks with a partner. Okay, the student support here is they'll have illustrated text, they'll have word banks, and they'll have a partner. So we're going from a lot of support and scaffolding until we do not need any support at all. Here in this slide, we can see some examples of sensory supports, graphic supports, and interactive supports. Some of the sensory supports are pictures and photographs, manipulatives, videos, models and figures. Graphic supports include charts, graphic organizers, graphs, timelines, and interactive supports include pairs or partners, using cooperative groups or small groups, or even a whole group, using the home language, having a partner, having mentors. Topic-related language refers to content-related words and expressions to which all students of that grade level should be exposed, regardless of their language proficiency. Although students may be at different points in their language development trajectory when learning particular content, certain specific and technical language is essential for engaging and learning the ideas and concepts presented. Through the use of scaffolding and supports, students should have the opportunity to interact with that language. In this slide, we can see the topic-related language is that students at all levels of English language proficiency will interact with grade level words and expressions such as narrate, narration, first person, third person. We're going to look here at integrated, expanded, and complementary strands. WIDA has integrated strands that show how extensive units of instruction can integrate the use of all 4 language domains, the 5 standards, and various grade levels. WIDA has expanded strands for each grade level that can be used in collaboration between language and content area educators. And I highlighted this here because this is a strand that allows excellent collaboration between the ESL teacher and the content area teacher. The purpose of these strands is to show how the MPIs, the model performance indicators, are connected to the performance definitions, to provide concrete examples of language and discourse, sentence and word phrase dimensions, and to inform teachers' planning and instruction as they identify language that might be appropriate for their students. In addition to the strands for each of WIDA's 5 ELD standards, there is also one complementary strand per grade level to reach out to all educators who work with English learners. WIDA's complementary strands include the language of music and performing arts, the language of the humanities, the language of the visual arts, the language of health and physical education, and the language of technology and engineering. WIDA Standards Framework exemplifies WIDA's belief in the assets, contributions, and potential of English learners. WIDA encourages educators to work collaboratively using the framework and standards. WIDA hopes this framework serves as a starting point to help students, families, teachers, and administrators in their efforts to promote English learners' access to grade level, standards-based content curriculum, as well as extracurricular activities. Language development and scaffolding support is essential to an English learner's academic success. This frame shows an example of a model performance indicator that you would write for each level: level 1 entering, level 2 emerging, level 3 developing, level 4 expanded, and level 5 bridging. And it shows the questions you will ask yourself when forming these MPIs. What language are the students expected to process or produce at each level of proficiency? Which language functions reflect the cognitive function at each level of proficiency? And third, which instructional supports, sensory, graphic, interactive, are necessary for students to access the content? This is a blank frame of the previous slide. Integrated strands invite educators to consider how they might prepare units incorporating multiple language domains and subject areas so that students can make important learning connections across disciplines. For example, as students gain familiarity with ideas and concepts about weather, educators have a great opportunity to focus on instructing them in the unique features of language used to communicate about weather in each content area. Here we have an example of context for language use. Students investigate, collect data, and report on the impact of weather conditions on people in different communities, regions, and nations around the world. We have our language domains: listening and reading, and speaking and writing. We have our proficiency levels going across the top: level 1 entering, level 2 emerging, level 3 developing, level 4 expanding, level 5 bridging. Okay, in listening and reading, for level 1 entering, students will match icons or numbers with photographs to denote weather conditions and their effects on people, for example, their moods, ways of living, based on videos and text-based resources using calendars, maps, charts, and graphs. Okay, so our language here is matching. Students will be matching. Our content is, they're going to denote weather conditions, and they have a lot, and how the weather conditions affect the people's moods and ways of living, but they have a lot of support for level 1. We have videos, we have text-based resources, calendars, maps, charts, and graphs. A lot of support for level 1. But as we move across and we come to level 5, all of those supports are no longer needed. Expanded strands display the features of academic language. They provide concrete examples of language at the discourse, sentence, and word phrase levels. They show how MPIs are connected to performance definitions, and they inform teachers' planning and instruction. These are some of the words and acronyms that we see in the ESL world. WIDA stands for World Class Instructional Design and Assessment. North Carolina is a WIDA state, and again, we're part of a consortium that's out of the University of Wisconsin. WAPT is our WIDA Access Placement Test. That's the test we give to all students who identify a language other than English on their home language survey. Access Rails 2.0 is our annual English language proficiency test. It's typically given in the window between February 1st and March 15th. ESL is our program, English as a Second Language. EL stands for English Learner. Sometimes you will see ELL, English Language Learner. LEP is Limited English Proficient or Limited English Proficiency. ELD, English Language Development. ELP, English Language Proficiency. MPIs are Model Performance Indicators. Our access test, our access for 2.0, the access stands for Assessing Comprehension and Communication in English State-to-State Large-Scale Annual ELP Assessment. The domains are listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and our proficiency levels, Level 1 Entering, Level 2 Emerging, Level 3 Developing, Level 4 Expanding, and Level 5 Bridging. Okay, so we're all done. This was an overview of WIDA ELD standards. There is a training that was done prior to this one called ESL Basics, and Conversational Spanish is included in that. You can access this training and that training both in Advanced Core after this training is concluded. I thank you so much for your time. If you want more information about ESL, about WIDA ELD standards, please reach out to me or your ESL teacher at your school. Thank you again for attending. I will include the sign-in Advanced Core, and you can also sign in using the chat box. The sign-in is included in the chat box. Thank you again, and have a nice afternoon.